Science fiction is a popular genre nowadays. Of that, there is no doubt. Another popular genre is buddy cop shows, such that it often crosses paths with sci-fi in different forms. Whether it be the Doctor and a companion acting like Sherlock and Watson in classic and new Doctor Who, or the show Something Is Out There, where we see a cop team up with a literal and apparently beautiful alien to solve street-level crimes and fight evil beings. In today's video, we explore the history, setting, cast, and trivia about the show, looking at why it began and ended, and what its fan reception is like today. But before we get into that, there is a small request to subscribe to getting more fandom, fantasy, and fiction content. Done? Fantastic. Now let's bleeping go.
Now it's my turn.
Behind the scripts of Something Is Out There, before there was Master Chief and Cortana in Halo, there was Jack and Tara in 1988, who brought in great ratings for NBC, leading to the transformation of the Invader miniseries into a Something Is Out There weekly series. Yet, the show did not fare well against IPs like Dallas and Beauty and the Beast, and was canceled. Despite this, the Sci-Fi Channel included the show in its rotation, where we saw the alien medical officer Tara share supernatural abilities, like telepathy and extreme agility, to help Jack investigate police officer murders, where officers' organs had been removed at supernatural speeds. The question is, what happened to a show that was so successful that it got turned into a weekly series, and then it failed? Well, let's see what the team themselves had to say. Producers John Ashley and Frank Lupo said that they had decided to alter the program's concept, since the weekly series had a much smaller budget than the $7.5 million of the miniseries. To quote Ashley, "Things definitely change fast when a miniseries or movie becomes a weekly series. It's great when you've got 4 hours, $7.5 million, and the talents of Rick Baker and John Dykstra to play around with. But what happens when you're suddenly cut to $1 million per episode budget, don't have the talents of Baker or Dykstra, and have to take the miniseries concept to the next level while turning out an hour a week? What happens is that you make changes." This was not the sole problem of the show. The duo also said the idea of outer space just wasn't suited for TV, which later shows would disprove, of course. Moreover, when NBC had ordered the 4-hour miniseries, the very structure of this Columbia Pictures television production was different. Fans clearly did not like the change. For example, they wanted the sci-fi elements that were the staple of the miniseries, unlike ideas like telekinesis, which seemed more fantastical than Alien in the weekly series. Apart from this, they expected Tara to use her abilities to fight a monster or an alien every week, as the miniseries had set up, and did not like that the focus had shifted to the relationship between the two main characters, despite that also being a highlight of the miniseries, and one of the reasons it was turned into a weekly show. The producers clearly didn't feel doing a Monster of the Week was possible. The show's creators say that they eventually took a step back and brought back the original basis, but it was too late to keep Something Is Out There afloat. The Los Angeles Times called the cancellation of the show the first casualty of the 1988-89 television season. Before we divulge what fans think of the show and its cancellation, don't you think, dear fan, that we should introduce you to Jack and his fake cousin Tara, as well as Jack's girlfriend, from whom he is keeping Tara's true original a secret? Meeting the characters of Something Is Out There. Jack Breslin. Played by Joe Cortez, Jack Berlin is the main character of Something Is Out There, who is investigating the crime of his fellow officers dying when their organs are removed at what humans consider supernatural speed. Often called a maverick police officer, he wants to have coitus with Tara, yet avoids acting on it, causing confusion for the show's resident alien. During the show, Jack is investigating the crime with the next character on our list. Frank D'Elia. George Zunza plays Jack's partner in the miniseries, whom Tara seems to eventually replace. Tara, telepathic and witty, played by Mariam Dabo, is the beautiful alien of this buddy cop duo. She, despite being from a distant planet, stays on Earth posing as Jack's cousin and helping him solve crimes, constantly annoyed by how people perceive her body, which makes one think that she would hate that fans often describe her as a beautiful alien, rather than for her other attributes. Tara, despite looking human, has several physiological differences from our species, which both hinder and help her investigations. Often confused by human taboos, she nevertheless is shown to be receptive to Jack's requests, showing us what she is made of as a person. Our source on Everything Alien. This medical officer tells the viewers of the show that most aliens look human, because how many images can God have? Her talents also include being able to make bulletproof clothing and doing Batman-like experiments. Yet, how do these characters interact with the Los Angeles setting of the show? Let us find out what the storyline of Something Is Out There looks like in action. The storyline and plot of Something Is Out There, one of the earliest episodes, episode 3 of season 1, starts with the antagonist alien of the show, the Xenomorph, not the popular one, but another one, taking over the form of Tara and, trigger warning, shooting Jack. Later, it turns out to be a joke the alien is playing on her partner, leading to a spirited discussion with Jack trying to explain Earth jokes to Tara and how jokes are supposed to be stupid. The stakes are set up by a phone call, which Jack doesn't let Tara in on, simply taking her somewhere while ominous music plays over her gun. And then we are introduced to a character called Eddie, who seems to be a killer. We now see who the shadow over Tara's gun was, Eddie's partner. The cop they are tailing is Jack, and Eddie has some nefarious plans for our protagonist. We cut to a domestic yet hurried scene of our main duo packing, where Tara reminds Jack that he is running because he is frightened, even though he insists that he won't let anyone run him out of town. Tara's telepathy shows here when she reads Jack's thoughts in a scene where it's not built up at all, showing that perhaps the show is pulling some tricks from the Magic Realism Handbook. In direct defiance of his orders, as Tara reminded him, Jack decides to stay in town, only to be convinced that he needs that vacation anyway. The entire car ride showcases genius writing pointing out human eccentricities through Tara, yet the central conflict is Jack feeling torn between his safety and what he perceives as his duty to catch Eddie when they detour to what looks like a hive of scum and villainy straight out of an 80s Mos Eisley. Eddie returns with a vengeance and, trigger warning, a gun, causing a shootout and death. Just as Jack and Tara are leaving, this firmly pulls them into the thick of things and also shows us a responsible side to Tara when she realizes that the laser gun she was working on has gone AWOL. And yes, that's the same gun Eddie used to settle his score with people. Soon enough, we have a scene that establishes Jimmy as the protagonist. He saves a woman who is being threatened by goons in search of Eddie. Of course, he needs Tara's help and quips that she shouldn't listen to his orders to stay in the car again. After this, we see our lead calmly interrogate the woman he just rescued, who is none other than the gun thief, Tina. As we can see, the show gives us a clearly established relationship between our leads as that of partners in crime, or rather, in detective work. Despite this, it lacks the comic timing of many buddy cop shows and instead feels more like a serious thriller or crime movie. Nowhere do we see Tara behave in a manner that is eccentrically alien, except when she shares how different Earth culture feels. Both characters have well-defined voices and personalities, which is why it feels like we are waiting for the other shoe to drop when Jack rescues Tina. He's a good guy for sure, but he does walk a thin line when trying to enforce the law by mingling with criminals. His attitude is clearly flippant, but he does take his duty seriously. Not to mention, he is smart. Awfully so. The show has a distinctly 80s vibe with a roguelike cop and Tara's curls and leather jackets, yes, but is entertaining, if a little slow for today's shorts-oriented audience. Oh, and remember how we said Tara never behaves eccentrically? Except that one time when she did it to scare Tina, in our opinion. She was reading her mind and used a device, but that's just one episode. How does the story end? Well, the last episode, The Keeper, is reminiscent of the pilot in the way that it starts with children. Just like in the pilot, there's a creepy vibe present. In The Keeper, a young teenager discovers a silver container that seems to release a green gas. Tara wonders if the missing fishermen in that area are a result of her ship's wreckage and parts winding up there and causing chaos, leading the duo to investigate, where they find a town that is in the thrall of a young teenager and his friends, throwing the duo into yet another adventure. Yes, even this episode follows the show's trademark opening of setting the first scene in the area where the main plot will take place. Not only is there an eerie teen watching from the background, always, but everyone also seems to want our duo out of the town. The plot thickens when Jack comes to odds with the same teen when the teenager insults an elderly man who seems almost robotic, while saying he was unbothered by the disrespect. The odd part is that this results in the waitress asking Tara and Jack to leave, until a young boy comes in asking the town doctor for help for his ailing father and is refused. Such incidents cement the weirdness of the town, reminding some of Lovecraftian towns where something always seems to be lurking beneath the surface. After all, why is everyone so scared of a teenager in a leather jacket? The weirdness escalates, and the town's sheriff himself escorts Jack and Tara out of it, after which the teenager, Rudy, and his friend carry the sheriff away screaming and shouting into a dark basement where the officer is shown screaming at a creepy green light, which we later discover hollowed out his brain surgically. Who is behind all this, and how our duo solves the crime forms the main mystery of the episode. A child, Joey, is their main source of help after they escape a gunfight, chase, and a lake they might have drowned in. The show's episodic nature shows in that there are barely any any references to previous adventures, other than the xenomorph of the miniseries. Jack's reckless nature is evident when he puts Joey on a boat, tells him the way to the nearest port, hands him some money, and gets back to the adventure after promising Joey's father he would get him to safety. After this, we find out that it is the first step to a violent alien invasion, whose energy source Tara had kept imprisoned in her ship, and a teen named Eddie had released, at least partially. It had become his heart and soul, and was using him to send the invasion message to the rest of the race. Eventually, Tara and Jack are also thrown into the basement with the creepy green light, where we learn it is actually coming from Eddie, who has been taken over by the energy source. When Jack sets him and Rudy against each other, Rudy exhibits free will, which infuriates Eddie, resulting in Eddie, Rudy, and Jack, and Tara, thinking Eddie is also dead. Later, while trying to destroy the transmitter of the invasion message, they realize Eddie is still alive and in control of some of the townsfolk, whom Jack defeats. Despite the town being free, the show and the episode end on an ominous note, as they wonder if they stopped the transmission in time. Also, Tara did not look for any more parts of her ship, and Eddie's body was never shown, leaving many loose ends and reminding us that the show was abruptly canceled.
Where's Ronnie?
The legacy of the show. While the TV movie seems to have positive reviews, as a mixture of the sci-fi and horror genres, many fans focus mainly on Tara's beauty, and often note that the weekly series didn't have the budget to have the same effects, and even had lackluster writing compared to the OG work. Fans have noticed how this piece had a similar plot to other movies of the time, putting it firmly in the media landscape of the 1980s. Yet, they also noticed that this show had something different from its peers, giving it a significant following even today. Fans have called it a quincentennial NBC show, using Battlestar Galactica footage and mentioning their other productions. A Marvelous Villain. While TV Tropes has shown that the show has many tropes that are common in the science fiction genre, the show stands more as a testament to what happens when a good story is given the wrong medium. While it was great as a miniseries, the formula that Something Is Out There pivoted to did not fit what a weekly series required. Another thing we can learn from the show is the damage that disappointing fans can cause to a production. If you have set up expectations, subverting them for no reason other than because you can alienates your audience. This isn't just about Something Is Out There, but also some famous modern media as well. What do you think, fans? Do we need to give this show the miniseries treatment again? Let us know in the comments. And if you haven't subscribed yet, what are you waiting for?